Hello friends, this is Carrie and welcome back to I Like Reddit channel. I hope you all are staying safe and healthy. Friends, today we have 4 stories out of the entitled People subreddit, so let's begin. Our first story is posted by Roxanne1930. Employee screams at a guy who turns out to be the CEO of the company. Gets fired. This story actually happened to my mother a couple of years ago. She worked for an energy company in the customer service department, taking calls, answering questions, and sometimes helping fix simple issues. It had started not too long ago, and she was one of the first few employees, so right off the bat, she knew pretty much everyone who worked there, including the CEO, who she described as very nice, down-to-earth, who'd always dress casual so that he could blend in with everyone pretty easily. After a couple of months, they started hiring more people to work there, including this one guy who apparently was so entitled, he considered himself better than everyone else. My mom and a few others didn't like him because apparently he was arrogant, always tried to correct others even when he was wrong, kept making the same mistakes and ignored many of the rules on the floor, and also had a bad temper, would scream and curse at anyone who said or did anything he didn't like. The screaming would 99.9% of the time be something, "Who do you think you're talking to?" Insert whatever someone did or said. There were so many complaints about him, but the manager at the time was too nice, or too scared, or both to actually do something about him. One day he was apparently playing games on his phone, who at the same time was talking to a customer and telling them all sorts of random wrong things when the CEO came to check the floor after a meeting. Seeing this guy, he walked up to him and calmly informed him that he wasn't allowed to have his phone out while helping a customer so that he can completely focus on what the customer said. Cue this guy literally throwing his headset off, jumping to his feet to scream in his face, "And who the heck do you think you are to tell me how to do my job?" along with stomping his foot with each syllable. The boss stood there for a moment, obviously in shock, and the guy, thinking that he had won, smirked all smug before the boss pulled a, "Well, boss move. Well, I just so happen to be the CEO of this company," he screamed back, even copying the foot stomping. The dumb guy lost the smirk, and according to my mom, went from angry bright red to pure white in half a second. The boss calmly grabbed the headset, which apparently still had a customer, who held everything and apologized for what she heard and just asked her what she needed help with. Finished a minute before hanging up and once again apologized and told her the other guy was fired so it wouldn't happen again. As soon as he hung up, he told the other guy that it was serious and that he better gather his stuff. In the end, the annoying employee was gone. The manager got a talk on how to deal with bad employees, and someone baked a cake for the boss. Our next story is posted by Snoodonut5467. Entitled guy asked me whether it was worth his time to pursue me. This happened a while ago, but honestly it still boggles my mind. I was in a long-term relationship and it was nearing the end. However, only my nearest and dearest were aware of this rocky period. Now, I met this guy at a house party with his non-girlfriend, but they were basically dating. He was pretty good looking, but that's where the train stops. He flirted with every girl at the party, including myself, despite me attending with my boyfriend. I ended up chatting with the girl, who was adorable, and honestly, I was a complete jerk to this guy. I couldn't have been clearer that I was not interested. Anyway, after the party, most of the new people I met added me, including entitled guy. I accepted him because, why not? I accepted everyone else, and that's where it ends. No chit-chat, nada. Anyway, out of the blue, he suddenly starts messaging me the normal stuff like, "Hi, how are you?" When out of nowhere, he suddenly asks, "So, is it worth my time?" Of course, I have no idea what he's talking about, because seriously, who does that? He asks, "Is it worth my time flirting with you while you have a boyfriend? Like, how likely are you to cheat? I hear things aren't great, but I'm not gonna put effort in if I'm not gonna get anything out of it." To say I was flabbergasted was an understatement. I asked him if I had given him any indication within my clear disdain for him that I wanted anything to do with him. And his response, ladies and gentlemen, the audacity. "Everyone wants me, you just don't know it yet." I told him I'm not interested. If someone gives you zero indications that they even like you, let alone fancy you, perhaps don't ask them if it's even worth the effort to make a play for them. Seriously, I mean, snaps for the balls on him, but also, he must have some pretty deep pockets to keep that audacity in. Safe to say that I removed him quite swiftly from my friends list. If you're enjoying the content so far, please put a heart emoji in the comment section down below. Our next story is posted by You Know Who 2016, entitled Airline Passenger Tried Helping Themselves to My Upgraded Seat. TLDR at the end. I used to fly for work a lot. I have so many entitled people stories, it stops surprising me when I run into this behavior. This is one such story, the cast. Me is me, EP entitled person, FA flight attendant. Being someone who used to fly a lot, I constantly would get upgraded to business class or first class, or simply just getting an upgraded seat using miles. Since this was a connection for me, I arrived and boarded later than most of the plane. As soon as I walked into the plane, I saw someone sitting in my seat since I had been upgraded. Now, if you fly enough, someone sitting in your seat is not an uncommon occurrence. Me, excuse me, I believe you're in my seat. Entitled person does not even bother to look up at me and waves his hand away dismissively and said, "Let's just switch seats so I can sit beside my wife." Me, sure. What's your seat? EP, Snickerdoodle. Now, I don't remember exactly what number seat he said, but it was the last row of the airplane, aisle seat, right next to the bathroom. Yes, I have had to sit in those seats in the past. Remember, my assigned seat was in the first class/business class section. Now, I've switched seats with people innumerable times in my life without a second thought, even first class seats. The look of someone getting an unexpected ride in first class is priceless, but the way this guy was behaving and what he was expecting, this is not one of those times. Me, no, I'm gonna sit in my assigned seat. Now he finally looked at me. EP, well, I want to sit with my wife, so I'm not moving. Me, well, if you want to sit with your wife, I'm sure whomever is sitting way back there would be more than happy to switch seats way up here so that you can sit back there with your wife. He did not like that at all. For what could he really say at that point without sounding like a jerk? He just stared at me. Me, now annoyed, move. Entitled person, I'm not moving. Ding. Darn right, I pushed the call button. Flight attendant, yes sir, how can I help you? I hand her my ticket and say he's sitting in my seat. She asked for his ticket, checked both our tickets, and sees his seat number, and, in my mind at least, gave him a look like, seriously? Flight attendant, sir, you're gonna need to sit in your assigned seat. Entitled person, but I want to sit next to my wife. Well, I wasn't missing a beat and parroted my original statement about me being sure that whomever was sitting back there beside him would be more than happy to switch seats and sit up here. Boy, oh boy, that obviously made him angry. Flight attendant looks at the entitled person's wife and says, "Ma'am, would you like to switch seats so that you can sit next to your husband?" Entitled person's wife, no. Flight attendant continues in the same familiar flight attendant voice that lets you know that you don't have a choice. Well, sir, you have to go sit in your assigned seat, so please gather your things. What a sad, pathetic sight it was seeing a grown man act like a baby, gather his things, and sulk towards the back of the plane. Yes, his wife sat beside me that flight and didn't join her husband in the back of the plane. No, we didn't talk or look at each other even once, and that was perfectly fine by me. Imagine dismissively expecting someone to give up their first class/business class seat to sit in, only to sit in the very last row of the plane right next to the bathroom. TLDR. Entitled person dismissively and rudely expected me to give up my first class/business class seat to sit in their seat at the very last row of the plane right beside the bathroom door. Our final post is by Honor the Crones. You can't fire me, I have kids! This was many years ago when I was a shop steward for a union. I was the one who had to mediate grievances between employees and management. Cast of characters. M is the manager and EW entitled worker. The manager calls to discuss the issue of an employee he wanted to fire. He had done progressive discipline and had given her many chances and now was just done. The issue was the woman didn't want to show up for work. He told me how many chances he had given her and wanted me to be present for her termination notice. The encounter went like this. Manager, entitled worker, do you know why I asked for this meeting and why I asked the shop steward to be present? Entitled worker, no, I have no idea. Manager, you were supposed to work yesterday from 8 to 4:30, and that was written on the schedule, correct? EW, yes, but I overslept. Manager, yes. When you didn't show up for work, I called you several times, but you didn't answer. Entitled worker, I couldn't hear my phone. I overslept, but when I woke up, I called you. Manager, that's true, You called me at 10:45, which is almost 3 hours after you were supposed to be at work. Entitled worker. I called you as soon as I woke up. Manager. Yes, and you told me that you would be in to finish your shift. Entitled worker. I did. I came into work as soon as I could. Manager. You showed up at 2:30. That's over 3 hours after you told me you were on your way in. Entitled worker. I couldn't find daycare for my kids. Manager. Didn't you already arrange daycare because you knew that you had a shift at 8? Entitled worker. But my daycare won't let me bring the kids in late. Manager. We've had this talk before and I've given you several warnings that if you can't show up for work when you are scheduled, that we'll have to let you go. Entitled worker. That's not fair. It's not my fault I couldn't find daycare. Manager. What's not fair is having your co-workers forced to work a double shift because you didn't show up to relieve them. Finding daycare for your kids is your responsibility. If you want to work here, you have to be able to show up and work. Entitled worker. You can't fire me. It's FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act, that states that you can't be fired or docked pay if you're staying home to care for a sick family member. Manager. Were your kids sick? I thought you said you overslept. Entitled worker. No, I overslept, but I can't leave my kids without daycare, so it's FMLA. At this point, I step in. EW, I would like to help you here, but if you don't show up for work, there's no way I can save your job. You have been given more warnings and reprimands and extra chances than our contract requires, and I don't have the grounds to grieve this termination. Entitled worker. It's FMLA. I had to stay with my kids, and you can grieve this under FMLA. Me. FMLA only applies if your kids were sick. You overslept. EW. FMLA. It's because of my kids. Can't leave my kids. FMLA. You can't fire me. Manager. Okay, I think we're done here. Here's your termination notice, and we're going to ask you to leave the building now. Security will escort you to your locker to clear out your stuff. EW. FMLA. I have kids. You can't fire me if I have kids. Security shows up and she is escorted to her locker and then out of the building, all while screaming at the top of her lungs, "They fired me because I have kids. I'm gonna sue you all. I'm gonna own this business and you're all gonna be fired. I have kids. You can't fire me because I have kids." Unfortunately, no one explained to her that having a job wasn't all about us agreeing to give you a paycheck. You actually have to show up for the job to do work. She tried to protest her firing, was denied unemployment, and tried to register a complaint against me with the union for failure to represent, the manager for sexual discrimination, and the business for failure to uphold FMLA. Sigh. You just can't fix bulletproof stupid. For clarification, she had done the same stunt without FMLA component 5 different times before this. Just show up for work 5 times and she had her job. I think she still believes that she was screwed over on the FMLA thing. That's all the stories I have for today. Links to the original Reddit post will be in the description box below. Please stop on by Reddit to show the OP some love and an upvote. If you enjoy my videos, please comment, like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell notification to let you know when I upload new videos. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.